Make sure we hit record on this one. And we are recording. All right. As you can see here, we got a new background. Is it blurry? Is that blurry? It looks blurry. That's all right though. Wait, let's see here. Let's see how the effects are. Settings, effects. It was blurry. We'll keep that. We'll keep it non-blurry for this one. Hey, we don't have to blur it up for you guys. All right, what's happening, team? I know we are a little ahead of schedule on the timer here, and also too, like just because I'm helping my family move, so I wasn't sure when to really put in the on the calendar booking for you guys to know when we are going live for the group coaching stuff here. So yeah, so as you can see, we got a new background. We got a new background here. We have about 85% completed with the move, so that's a good thing. And that was just funny because last time I helped my family move, I was here by myself, and it was apartment to apartment within the same building or complex or compound, and that took a long time. That took a long time by myself. But yeah, we're good. We are here. We are here. We are live, and we are rocking and rolling. So I hope you guys enjoyed the last two topics of the reverse lunge, and also, well, the last one we did was the reverse lunge, and making sure we address the knee valgus, which we do not want to have as we performing any squat lunge execution for exercises. All right, and today is going to be the art of the plank, the anatomy, biomechanics, and lower back pain prevention. Cool. So let's double check real quick here before I share the screen. Yeah, let's double check before I share the screen here. Enter picture in picture. Allow this time. No, not yet. I guess not yet. Not for that one. I do want to share the screen on the iPad. Da-da-da. The art of the plank, Google Slides. Hopefully that's the one. And hopefully we are over here. All right, so we have the art of the plank. So your front plank, good old front plank. We got to talk about that core. All right, so the art of the plank here. So we have anatomy, biomechanics, and lower back prevention. Right, so the primary muscles involved for the plank. So you want to think your core, transverse abdominis, pelvic floor, erector spinae, diaphragm as well too. So you got to think of a cylinder block. Okay, a cylinder block on this one, 360, top and down, the whole shebang for your core. Okay, so the core shield here. So the rectus abdominis in front, the transverse on the sides. Right, so these muscles brace the spine against gravity. So as we're in that front plank position, so a couple of things here, right? So, supinated and my palm is facing up, supinated, pronated, my palm's facing down. So if my rectus abdominis and my transverse is on the back of my palm and I'm in that front plank position, my muscles are braced, okay? And the spine is preventing against gravity. So I got to make sure that line is solid, my back is solid. So preventing a painful trunk extension. All right, so we have the core shield, and now we have the anchor. So gluteus maximus, that's the anchor. Actively squeezing the glutes facilitates a neutral pelvic position and shields the lumbar discs. Okay, so shields the lumbar discs. So you got to really activate your glutes. Okay, so especially the glute max. Now we have stability. Okay, so the serratus anterior. Serratus anterior is that those boxing ribs, that the boxing muscles, so to speak. All right, so again, with the serratus anterior, with that front plank. So if you have those shoulder issues, you want to make sure that the serratus anterior is activated, and want to make sure that you are solid in that plank. And of course, this will help out with performing plank exercises will help out stabilize the shoulder as well. So the stability part of the plank is the serratus anterior, the deltoids, stabilizing the shoulder blades and prevents winging. We mentioned that in the previous discussion, and reduces neck strain during the hold. Okay, so making sure that you have that solid plank position and having your head not tilted forward but pulled back a little bit. Now we have the anterior pelvic tilt, APT. So anterior pelvic tilt, the pelvic pivot. Okay, so the anterior versus posterior. Anterior is the front, posterior is the backside. Okay, so now you want to think. So the position of your pelvis determines whether your abs or, whoa, crazy rain up there. So the position of your pelvis determines whether your abs, or your spine takes the load. Okay, so this is a key factor here. So, being in the gym for all these years and seeing other people and individuals perform a plank, but then they have um, an anterior tilt. And that's what we don't want, because that's where your low back is going to take the load. That's where your low back is going to start feeling pain in a front plank position. All right, so that is an indicator. If you feel in your back, then we need to correct some alignment. Okay, so the anterior tilt, the X, we don't want an anterior tilt in a front plank. We do not want that. All right, so if you want to think, your pelvis is a bowl of water. Okay, so the bowl of water is if I anteriorly tilt, remember, going to the front, that means all the water will go forward. So that's an anterior tilt. The water is going forward. A posterior tilt, the water is going backwards. So if we have a stable position, the water will stay inside. Now, when I do that front plank position, gravity, so I wanted to anterior tilt in this one, and to make sure that my low back is solid. I know you guys have the infographic here on the side. You guys don't. So posterior tilt is what you want to focus on in your front plank position. So you want to think you tuck your tailbone underneath, which engages your core and it protects your spine. So we were talking about anterior tilting and posterior tilt in the squat. We don't want a posterior tilt in the bottom portion of the squat, because that's going to hurt your low back. In this instance, for this front plank, we want to have an anterior tilt. We want to squeeze your glutes. Excuse me. So for the front plank, anterior tilt. Right now we have a posture transfer. Okay, so standing versus planking. So faulty standing posture, specifically a forward head and anterior pelvic tilt, translates directly into a compromised plank. So from here, again, my spine, my fist is my head. Now from here, if my head's forward a little bit, that gravity shifts. And then, of course, and then anterior tilt, then we have a whole lot of misalignment on that one. So from here for you guys here, so my fist is my head, my neck, I crank forward, anterior tilt, my elbow comes in. So all that misalignment, you guys can see in the picture here. All right, so a faulty standing posture, specifically a forward head position and an anterior tilted pelvis, right? So that's going to translate. If you have this posture, if you take a look at yourself in the mirror on a side profile, or when you guys send a picture updates for your front and side and back for your pictures to showcase those muscles, or weight gain or weight loss over the months coming with the Inside Den, you'll be able to see that posture. All right. So the goal is to maintain a neutral plumb line. We talked about plumb line before, right? So from the ear through the shoulder down to the ankle, right? So if you guys and gals, if you take a look here on the good posture here, the plumb line, the green arrow coming straight down from the ear, shoulder, that's some crazy rain out there, hip, into your heel, ankle, Cotinus. Okay. So standing versus planking. So you make sure that, your posture, right? Again, so that's why we really dive deep into these corrective exercises inside the den. Like we can have, we may, build, oh, I can hold I can put a 45-pound plate on my back, on my shoulders. I can do all this, external load. However, if we are having that anterior tilt and our head is forward prior to this exercise, hey, and you want to have, put some plates on the back, right? To look, to be tough and stuff, right? But at that risk versus reward, that risk, right? You're gonna definitely hurt your low back. And especially working all these years, for the term weekend warrior, where we work through Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. That weekend hits, boom, I'm booking that high rocks class, boom, I'm booking that, the high intensity interval training class. That's some crazy rain. And you know what, if we don't have these corrective exercises that we address inside the den, right? We will, it may not hurt, within the first 90 days, 60 days, or it may hurt the first try, or, fast forward to 3, 4 years down the road. Now you're seeing physio, your low back is tweaked, your ankle mobility is non-existent, right? You are walking with pain, right? So that's from the, trying to achieve something, to be, for yourself to be like, I can do this core work by putting plates on my back, to make it more challenging because, oh, the plank is easy, which we'll get into another thing. So another issue that I've seen is, of course, having the anterior tilt or having that core braced, making sure your glutes are solid. Another thing too, so I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the slide deck. So this is why it's great to have the replay and also to have live training, right? So from here, so if I squeeze my hands and I squeeze in, like I'm going to bust open a coconut, right? So I'm squeezing in. If I have, I squeeze here. And if you take a look at me, just, my posture, my muscles are, activating, right? So that means I'm really focusing more, right? Working more on my upper body holding me up, right? So like, even though I might have a baggy t-shirt on, and from a side profile, from a trainer looking at the client, and I'm doing this position here, and I'm rocking and rolling, I'm hitting it, but my core may not be as gauged as my upper body, right? Somewhere back in the day when I would have my bow staff, right? Walk around the class or with my clients, poke them, stick them in the rib cage and transverse abdominis here just to make sure that their core is engaged, right? So that's why in kickboxing, boxing, you always want to make sure that your core is solid. You want to make sure your core is working through exercises. And back to my point, so what I kind of recommend, having your hands out. Of course, at the beginning, if you need to go through this position here for that front plank, then go for it. But I kind of have my hands open up through. You can make fist here for that front plank position. Another thing too I've seen is having a supinated grip. So if laying down, my palms are up and I'm holding that plank. Now for my shoulders at the back, I kind of want to protract, not retract, protract a little bit. Console the core, hold from here, head back, neck back, sorry, okay, and just hold that plank. All right, so that kind of alleviates the upper body, even though it's still coming for the ride, but it's not focused in when I have this position here. Okay, that's one little tip and trick that I've seen over the years. Okay, so that's one. So standing versus planking, again, watch that posture. All right, the technical guide. The technical guide. All right, so correcting fatal errors. So identifying the break in the kinetic chain is the first step towards mastery. All right, so the lumbar sag, lumbar low back sag. So the hips are too low, which will have spinal stress. So the hips are too low. Your hips are sagging down. So hips are too low, right? Or the A-frame. So if you're looking at a person from the side profile, from their head to their feet, but then their hip is making a little triangle. So, or an A, right? So the hips are jacking up. Or dolphin plank. If you're doing it on purpose, then yes, then you're okay for a dolphin plank. But if you're trying to achieve, whoa, what are you doing? I'm doing a front plank. Well, your hips are way too high. You want to have that straight line from the plumb line again. Doesn't matter if you're standing or you're laying down, that plumb line should be nice and solid through. So from here and here, no sagging down, no hip hugging, okay, no hips to the ceiling. So the perfect plank is that straight line, glutes activated, good solid core braced. All right, so error number one, we have the lumbar sag. So again, we were talking from the beginning here. So the gravity pulls the spine down, causing APT, anterior pelvic tilt. This shuts off the abs and places the entire load on the lumbar vertebrae. Okay, so we have that front plank, and we have that dip with your hips, with your belly button to the floor. That's when it's going to have the abs are disengaged, the abs are not firing, and you are placing the entire load onto your lumbar vertebrae, your lower back. That's when you're like, oh, I don't do planks because my low back hurts. Well, let's double check that technique. Do we have that straight line, that plumb line? All right, so you want to make sure that brace and the corrective exercise is executed properly. All right, so the fix is pull the pubic bone to the chin. So pull posterior tilt, pull the pubic bone to the chin, and then really brace that core. Okay, that hollow rock style to it. All right, so error number two, we have the A-frame. You guys can't see it, but if you guys are on the inside den, you'll be right along with us. So shoulder overload. Okay, so usually caused by core fatigue. Raising the hips shifts the load from the abdominals to the shoulder girdle. Okay, so I'm starting to fatigue. I'm gonna, bring my hips up a little bit. My head's coming down so I can see towards the floor and even towards my toes if I'm in that laying down position. All right, so I start fatiguing. All right, my shoulder blades cave in, my hips coming down, my head's forward. That's when we're disengaging. Remember, we want proper technique. We don't want to train to failure, right? We don't want to train to failure. We want to train to strengthen. And as soon as our technique fails, then the rep is over, which we then can go to a modified plank onto your knees, or you can recover down dog position or transition to a high plank to recover. Okay, so the shoulder overload. Oh yeah, so the fix. Oh yeah, so the fix is lower the hips until there's a straight line from ears to ankle. Ears to ankle, that's what we want to have from a side profile. So exactly. So when we have a sagging core, as you guys can see on the picture here inside the slide deck, right? The scapular retraction, the head lowered, there is no breathing, elevated shoulders, we have bent knees, and we have a sagging core. That's a lot right there happening in that picture. So as soon as any of these factors come into play, you have to take a break. You have to digress. Okay, take a break entirely. Go to your knees if you have to. All right. So the master cue. So tuck your tailbone between your legs like a sad dog, like a sad doggy. Okay. Pull your pubic bone toward your chin in that front plank position. This coaching cue instantly resets the pelvis into a posterior pelvic tilt, PPT, bracing the core. Joint alignment. So elbows stack directly underneath the shoulder. You don't want, common mistake is having too far forward. Now, you can have a long lever, front plank, long lever, front plank, long lever. Okay, if you have your hands on a bar, perhaps on a squat bar, or you're in that ab rollout position and you hold it there, that's a different story. We're talking about joint alignment for the basic front plank. So you don't want to have your elbows too far forward or too far back. Okay, so your hands, I can't really see this one here. So your hands, you want to have Forearms are parallel and avoid the triangle. Avoid the triangle again. So we want to avoid the triangle. We want to have our hands or palms, okay, and your neck. You want a neutral. Uh, uh, you want your neck neutral. So look at the floor. Look at the floor in front, or just look at your hand placement. Okay, so you want to be chin tucked in, neutral through. Okay. So again, so here, my apologies. So we have the correct technique. We have our hands. Hands are parallel. Forearms are parallel, and avoid the triangle. Common mistake is clasping hands, shoulder winging. So when I come from here, my shoulder, my angle changes if I'm having that hand clasp position. And then your neck here. So you want to neutral. You want it neutral. So again, looking at the floor or in front of your hands. A common mistake is looking at your toes. Looking at your toes, that means my head's coming way down, right? Or your head is drooping. Another one is your glutes. Okay, so another one is your glutes. So you want a hard squeeze throughout the hold. So you even activate those glutes. Okay, so loose glutes leads to a back arch. So your glutes lock into your low back, your lumbar. So front plank variations here. So we have the forearm plank, previously mentioned. So greater core isolation, lower center of gravity demands more from the transverse abdominis, preferred for those with wrist issues. So again, so if you have, if you have issues doing push-ups, what you can do, this isn't push-ups though now, okay? So you can roll up a towel, you can squeeze the towel, or if you think of, you want for the people that live in the snowy areas, you want to think that you're grabbing a snowball. So with the floor, you can grip the floor. So if I'm here with my wrist flat against the floor passively, it's all perhaps going to my wrist. But if we activate, now my forearm muscles is coming into play as well. Well, of course, we have the perfect push-up tools. You can use dumbbells. You can have your hands a little further in front. Okay, that's a forearm plank and a high plank. I'm talking about here. So high plank integrates upper body push strength. So when you get stronger in your push-ups, get that isometric hold at the top part of the position of the push-up. So this demands more scapular stability and prepares the body for push-up mechanics. So for the shoulder issues, for the posture, push-up position, okay? Inhale, exhale. So you want to inhale on the descent and exhale on the push. Inhale on the descent, exhale on the push for push-up. Where am I here? Oh, shoot, wrong one. Wrong trackpad. All right, so the final checklist here. Okay, so we're approaching the end here. So again, final checklist. Is my tailbone tucked? Is the sad dog active? So we don't want a sad dog. No one wants a sad dog. So, or well, in this case, we want an anterior pelvic tilt. Tuck your tailbone underneath. In this case, we want a sad dog, or maybe we should say embarrassed. We'll say embarrassed dog instead. Okay, and is your glute squeezed? So really squeeze those glutes. I used to say to my clients or into the class, on your glutes, in that front plank position, I should be able to bend a crowbar on those glutes. And do I have a straight plumb line? Right, ears to ankles, straight through, straight line down the middle. Thank you for the hearts. All right, so now push the floor away. And my shoulders strong. All right, so making sure I don't have that praying position or the clasp hands. Okay, I want a good solid parallel. And of course, again, on my throat. And again, neutral neck. So am I gazing forward at my hands or am I looking at my toes? All right. Okay, so head back. Check that posture. Hold, brace. Check out the right trackpad. And precision mastery. So quality beats quantity. Always. Quality. So whenever you want quality reps, right? You want to sacrifice just to get that repetition, sacrificing to get to perhaps we're doing a 90-second hold, a 60-second, or you're doing a weekend plank test with your buddies, with your friends, your coworkers, or you want to sacrifice technique over to win the competition or to even to win against yourself. Okay, there is an absolute well, of course, there's everything wrong if we're going to fight for it and wind up injured and wind up calling the physio, calling the chiropractor, all right, calling the doctor, getting an MRI scan to see what's happening in my low back. We don't want none of that. We want to be strong. Okay, so baby step it. One rep at a time to get stronger. There is no rush when it comes to fitness and health. There is prioritization when it comes to fitness and health. All right, you are sharing your screen. Let's finish that. Oops. And we're back. And we're back. Plank. Okay, we got the planks on there. Oh, how do I go back to the beginning here? Yeah, I'll figure that out later. So the plank. All right. So we talked about the knee valgus. We talked about the shoulder. That's what it was. We talked about the shoulder this past couple of weeks. Shoulder, knee valgus, and now we had our low back. Let's double check real quick here. So if you guys, yeah, we'll keep the green light up. So we'll keep it there. The plank PDF presentation will be uploaded. The video here will be uploaded, and also too, I'll quickly add in the Day One Dance Specialist AI Assistant Coach workout. I'll just post it. I'll paste it. I'll paste the workout in the comments, because I always want to tie in a learning material. Of course, if we were on board here, we'll have some Q&A about said material, and then of course going through the Day One Den Assistant Coach for you guys to utilize. Okay, so we'll keep it there. I'll do my edits here and stuff and make sure that you guys have the workouts, and boom. I will also put up the calendar so you guys are well aware in advance for the time. Okay, so it's Monday, 7-day jumpstart, 12 p.m. Pacific. Wednesday, Friday is the premier tier. Okay, for the Q&A coaching, regards to exercises, Day One Den, specific workouts, especially for if you did have low back issues in your plank. We just addressed it here. We will always have the replay, the PDF, and of course ongoing topics in regards to proper exercise technique and form. And of course, if you guys want to have a little more so on perhaps nutrition, mindset, goal setting, I definitely was talking to another friend, and just how our check-ins is not, well, besides outside of the 7-day jumpstart, when we have the Q&A coaching is just the quality of life check-ins, making sure that we are good, that we are maintaining a healthy and strong mindset as we go through our days, through work, school, relationships, Fighter FedEx, Day One Den, school material. We'll make sure that we are healthy and that we have a proper footing in life. I do want to make you guys stronger, but also want to make you guys stronger physically, spiritually, and mentally. All right, Ryan Omeasoo signing off. And, happy Good Friday. It's Friday, April 3rd. It's 11:38 a.m. for me here on the Cayman Island. It's a little, it's meant to be for 2 p.m. for us, but I gotta help my family finish up their moving. All right, team. Bye.